Well, hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out to our first in-person. Wow, that was loud. This in-person special place for Santa reading. It's a really beautiful story. I hope you will agree when you hear it. I want to thank Chrissy, of course, for putting this all together for us this whole weekend. In fact, we have a couple of things going on tomorrow from 12 to 7. We have the St. Nicholas Fair, so there's homemade ornaments and other kinds of crafts for people to buy for Christmas gifts, and just it's really a winter wonderland over there across from the hall. So you got to check it out. And hopefully after we're done here, you can go over for some cookies and cocoa, coffee, and just soak in all of the the seasonal wonder that awaits you over there. I want to thank Gail for playing for us tonight, and Susan and Teresa and Jim for providing music. Mary Margaret Kuhn is going to narrate the story for us. Thank her very much. What else? And Santa, of course. Santa Claus is here. So we thank him. St. Nicholas, you mean? What? Kathy? Kathy Parisi, yeah. Hey, Kathy. So Kathy was Chrissy's right-hand woman, helping make it all look so beautiful over there for us this evening and for the weekend and really for the whole Christmas season. So thank you again for coming. We'll get started presently.
Good evening, everybody. Once upon a time, not very long ago, two women shoppers were talking, obviously very concerned. Buying Christmas gifts for family and friends is one thing, and I'm glad to do it, but I'm afraid Santa Claus is taking over. He is causing many people to forget the real significance of Christmas. Agree. After all, it is Jesus' birthday, her friend responded. Now, Santa overhears a lot when he is making his list of who's been naughty and nice, and much of what he hears goes in one ear and out the other. But this Christmas, he couldn't stop thinking about what the woman had said. Even while helping the elves load his sleigh on Christmas Eve, those words rang in his ears. Could they possibly be right? As he went from house to house delivering toys, Santa couldn't stop worrying. Some people do forget Jesus on Christmas. Could it be his fault? Well, Santa's last stop, as usual, was at a church that had a beautiful life-size nativity scene. Every year, Santa loved to be the first person to wish Jesus happy birthday. And he always had a special present for the Christ child. But this year, Santa's footsteps were slow and heavy. He opened the door of the church and walked in to the front of the church. When he got there, his feet refused to carry him forward to the crib where the figure of the infant Jesus lay. He hid his present. He had never felt so drained. A tear rolled down his cheek. Even though children had left him cookies and milk and many loving letters, he still couldn't remember when he had felt so sad and so alone. What's wrong? Giving presents was always such a joy before, Santa thought out loud. He sat back and closed his eyes when suddenly he heard a voice calling.
Santa, St. Nicholas.
Well, Santa quickly wiped his eyes. He didn't want anyone to see him crying. He looked around the church. The voice sounded familiar, but there was no one in sight.
Cheer up. It's certainly not your fault that some people forget the significance of this day.
The voice continued.
Ever since you were born in far-off Turkey, only 300 years after my son Jesus was born, you've done far more than most to spread the true Christmas spirit.
Santa could hardly believe his ears. God was actually talking to him. And his voice was warm and loving. He didn't sound angry at all.
Don't ever forget your long and distinguished career.
God continued.
It all began when at a very young age you were named Bishop of Myra because of your many acts of charity.
Santa smiled, suddenly remembering his colorful past. Everyone called me Nicholas then, he recalled. And that's when I first discovered how great it feels to help those in need.
And you certainly help them often.
God added.
Remember that poor merchant who didn't have enough money to pay for weddings for his 3 daughters? You secretly threw a bag of gold into each girl's window, thinking that no one would see you, but someone did. For that good deed, you were named patron saint of young, marriageable maidens. The 3 gold balls that hang outside pawn shops to this day represent those 3 bags of gold.
Santa chuckled quietly. He'd forgotten that.
You've always loved children.
God reminded him.
Among many other good deeds, you were credited with rescuing some young boys from a horrible death and were named patron saint of children.
That's the title I treasure most of all, Santa admitted.
Well, don't tell that to the many sailors who pray to you for help when they are threatened with stormy seas or shipwreck. You are their patron saint as well.
And I'm the patron saint of Russia, too, Santa added. A big smile lit up his face. He certainly had led a busy and exciting life. Churches in many cities are named after me. My feast day, St. Nicholas Day, December 6th, is a very special day for celebrations and gift giving in many parts of the world.
You are known by many names as well.
God reminded Santa.
From the German, you are called Chris Kringle, which literally means Christ child.
That's true. But my most popular name is Santa Claus, Santa interrupted. Some say it comes from the Dutch Sinterklaas, but I like to think it comes from the way small children say, St. Nicholas, St. Nicholas, Santa Claus. Santa pulled thoughtfully on his beard and looked down at his bright red suit. Red had been his favorite color ever since he wore the red robes of a bishop. But he hadn't been quite so fat then. Actually, he has only had his round belly for a relatively short time. In 1823, when his friend Clement Moore wrote the famous poem, The Night Before Christmas, it depicted him as having a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. Soon many people were drawing pictures of Santa. The famous political cartoonist Thomas Nast, who created the Republican and the Democratic donkey, was one of the first to draw him with a long white beard and a round belly. Later, the Coca-Cola Company featured a jolly Santa Claus in their Christmas advertisements. And since then, with the help of television, magazines, newspapers, the figure of Santa Claus is now known everywhere.
Jesus and I want to thank you for helping spread the news about Christmas to every corner of the world.
God said softly.
Every year you help millions of people, young and old, show how much they love one another. Because of you, people everywhere fill their hearts with joy and love on Jesus' special day.
Thank you, God, Santa whispered. He felt better than he had felt for months. He was doing a very special job after all. Santa jumped up. Next year, he would work even harder, filling hearts with love and joy, so they would be ready for the Christ child on Christmas morning. He could hardly wait. Well, the morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of the church. It bathed the figure of the infant Jesus and Mary and Joseph in its bright, warm rays. Santa reached down under the chair and pulled out the present he had brought for the Christ child. He knew he'd have to hurry if he wanted to be the first person to wish Jesus happy birthday. He almost ran up the aisle, took off his hat, and knelt before the infant Jesus. He reverently placed his beautifully wrapped package next to the manger. It was the same present he'd given Jesus every year, but now he knew for sure it was the one present Jesus wanted most of all. Inside the box was Santa's list of the kind and loving things people, young and old, had done for one another throughout the year. Happy birthday, Santa whispered. And please thank your father for making a special place for me in his plan. I promise. He smiled lovingly at the figure of the tiny infant. Now, no one who comes to church on Christmas and sees Santa kneeling there thinks it's strange at all. They can see that it's the perfect on Christmas. And some people, the legend says, even insist that the baby in the manger is smiling back at him. The end.
Please join us in singing Silent Night, number 77 in the hymnal. Silent night, holy night, holy night, holy
Jesus, thy birth.